When you told me that we were going to try to get pregnant naturally, I assumed we were just going to bang a lot. And then you started throwing out these terms like surge peaks and optimal windows. And again, with the cervical mucus.
I basically earned myself a PhD in reproductive sciences.
You were studying so much, and honestly, I barely understood what you were talking about. Like when you told me that you took a test that was going to tell you whether you were going to ovulate in 24 to 48 hours, but then you told me that sperm can last up to 5 days inside the cervix, those numbers don't add up to me.
Look, when you're trying to get pregnant, you basically become part fertility scientist, part psychic, and part project manager. Hi, I'm Lauren Tassi.
And I'm Alex Hooper. Welcome back to Hopefully Kidding, where my wife has turned our sex life into a mathematical equation. And I fucking hate math.
When we last left off, we were awaiting the results of our second IUI.
And how did that go for us?
That was not successful.
Big goose egg?
Yeah.
Yikes. Okay, so that's two.
That's two.
IUIs that have not proven successful.
2 cycles back to back. How are you feeling at this point?
Not good. I really thought that first one didn't take. Fine. Okay, I can get over that. But now the second one didn't take either? What do we have to do to put a baby inside of you? Is it me? Is it you? Is it us? Is it the universe? Is something stopping us from having a baby?
I was questioning a lot at that time myself. The thing with IUI is intrauterine insemination, which is basically artificial insemination, but they go straight through your cervix into your uterus and put the sperm right where it needs to be.
Right. So to me, that seems like, okay, just putting it right where it is means that the sperm should just be able to go, hey, I don't have to run a marathon. I'm going to take 2 steps and be at the finish line and just no, way through the egg.
Right. And I had 4 good looking follicles. So that meant there were likely 4 eggs that I'd ovulated when I'd done that trigger shot. And so the chances of that are literally 4 times better than doing it on your own. But it didn't work for us. Do we do another one? Our doctor had talked about up to 4 IUIs. And there is like a cumulative effect to the number getting better every time you do it. But I was pretty burnt out at that point.
I didn't realize that your odds just kept getting better the more times you do it. It takes a lot out of you every time you do one of these. I don't want to keep going down this path. I don't want to do more IUIs.
Yeah, we needed a break. We'd spent $8,000 on the 2 IUIs at this point, basically.
Yeah.
The other thing that we were exploring at this time is we had your sperm test again. We did another semen analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first post-chemo semen analysis. It's been 3 or 4 months, which is the life cycle of a sperm. It's the amount of time it takes your body to produce one, I think, is about 2 months for men. So it was possible that your sperm could be good again. We got those results and it was comparable to before chemo.
Yeah, now we didn't go to a doctor. We just analyzed the sperm by putting it in my mouth, and then I told you that it was going to be fine, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, that's the normal way that you do it, is you just chew on it a little bit and you go, yup, these sperm seem pretty strong.
Gross.
Sorry.
Okay. So we decide to try naturally on our own. I had been thinking about this for a while. We never really tried on our own. You know what happened when we tried on our own?
We got pregnant.
The first time. So now that your sperm was looking good, now that chemo and cancer was behind us, let's just try like normal people for once, because we didn't really get to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't do a lot of things like normal people, but maybe this is one instance where, okay, let's just try to go status quo. And yeah, I'll just keep putting it in, busting loads. And eventually one of my little swimmers who's not stoned anymore, who doesn't have any chemo alterations that are holding him back, he's just going to get right in there, put on his swim cap and win that race.
We're on episode 8 of this podcast, and this is really the first time I dive into some of this TTC or trying to conceive community stuff. It's interesting how much I'd read about pregnancy, how much I'd read about like IUIs and fertility treatments. This was our first experience with ovulation prediction kits. So those are the little sticks you pee on. They look like a pregnancy test basically, and it can give you a sense of when you're going to ovulate, which means that's like go time for getting pregnant. It helps you really sort of pinpoint the couple of days in your cycle where you are most likely to get pregnant.
Okay.
So there's like the cheap ones, you buy a box of like 50 of them on Amazon for $20. There's also these like more advanced, expensive things that have apps that connect to your phone that can tell you all sorts of things about your hormones. And I'm just constantly wondering, should I buy the expensive one? We don't want to do more fertility treatments. How much can we throw at getting pregnant ourselves?
How much better are the bourgeoisie tests than just the proletariat ones?
I mean, you don't have to judge it by yourself, right? You're not like, is this line darker than this line, where it's literally like an app in your phone. It's like your LH, your luteinizing hormone level is this much. That means, and it'll like tell you when to have sex.
What is a luteinizing? What does that mean?
It's a type of hormone that rises right before ovulation. So it's what these tests are looking for, and it can measure it in your pee.
Okay, because I'm rising right now with my lutein levels. You want to get in there right now and maybe try again naturally?
Not right now. We're in the middle of a podcast.
Oh, okay. Next time.
I'm also tracking my BBT, which is basal body temperature.
Okay.
We could literally have this entire podcast and just
for just 3-letter acronyms.
I'm pretty sure it's acronyms.
I think it is, yeah.
Now, I think at one point I had 3 different fertility apps. I was monitoring my cycle and tracking everything. And we're dealing with the reality of timed intercourse and the unromantic version of that.
It's awful. I mean, okay, it's not awful because you get to have sex every single time, but scheduling sex, there's nothing hot about it. Sex is supposed to be this moment when you both look at each other and your loins are on fire and you're raging and you're just lusting for each other. And instead, Lauren's just like, okay, no, we actually need to do it tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. And I'm just like, okay, I guess I can get ready for that moment.
I'm going to take a little tangent here just because I do think that both people being in the mood and horny and wanting to have sex at the same time is kind of unrealistic.
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure. I mean, that's what marriage is. One person's in the mood and the other person goes, all right, you can just do it to me right now if you really need to.
Different people have different things that get them in the mood or get them turned on. To expect all of those things to be happening at the same time for both people is not realistic. And a lot of longtime couples struggle with that, and it's not talked about enough.
Well, especially not after 20 years of being together. There were definitely times when during the timed sex portion of our fertility that I would get in there and I feel like you would just kind of like, I'll just be blunt. You would just lay in bed and then expect me to just get in there and just come in you. And I remember there was one time when I was like, can you just like take your bra off or something? Can you get out of these overalls that have paint all over them? Can you please do anything to be sexy at all? Because this ain't working for me.
I do not own overalls, okay?
That was an exaggeration, but I did specifically one time go, will you at least like pretend to be interested in this?
I agree with you. There were times, I think especially at the beginning, I maybe took advantage of the fact that you generally are ready to go very easily. You don't have performance issues.
Hello.
But there are lots of people that do have performance issues, and I can only imagine how much more challenging all of this is to navigate, especially as a man.
I was treating you like a sex doll.
Anyway, so we're dealing with this timed intercourse thing. I'm also going down a brand new research rabbit hole. And this is when I read the book. It Starts with the Egg for the first time. A friend of a friend recommended it. She read the book, started taking the supplements, did a couple of the lifestyle things, and within 3 months she was pregnant. That's a story I have held on hope to for quite a long time. I do highly recommend this book. Read it before you start trying to conceive. Read it like if you're like, oh, I'm getting married, we're going to want to have a kid in a couple years. It's a great time to read this book. It talks about all the things you can do as a woman to improve your egg quality. It's very easy, basic things that you might not even think about, like getting rid of the plastic in your kitchen and checking to see if your beauty products have toxic chemicals in them. And it's something, if I had read this book a year ago when we first got pregnant, it's possible things could have worked out differently for us because of the change in egg quality and all the supplements. It's possible not to, but it's a very easy, relatively low cost way to set yourself up for success.
So is this when the great deplastification begins, when all of a sudden everything in our kitchen has to be thrown away, donated, whatever, because it's poisoning us nonstop?
Yeah, I was thrown away. I was horrified by how old some of the plastic was in our kitchen. I was
That's
like,
fair.
I've been living in LA for 12 or 13 years, and I know I bought this plastic bowl when I moved to LA at my first IKEA run.
I just didn't necessarily agree with it because to me, you were like, Alex, did you know we're eating 7,000 microplastics a week? And I was like, well, sounds like a little raft that my sperm can ride on to get all the way up to your egg. If it's like going all the way to San Francisco swimming, then I'm not going to be able to do that. But if you give me an inner tube, maybe.
I also started changing our cleaning products in our house. I gave up perfume, which I still, every once in a while, I'll put a spritz on. Like, I've become much more sensitive to scents since giving up perfume, because basically most perfume has toxic chemicals in it. You can find some at like the clean beauty store that don't, but at which point I'm just like, is it worth it anymore? This is also when I started taking a lot of supplements. I believe I started giving you some supplements at that point. Not the full dose that we ramp up to with you, but just the Amazon subscribe and save that our life became with all the supplements. It's also, it raises the question of, well, spending a few $100s on supplements a month is cheaper than IVF, but there's a cost to it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, all of those pills that kept showing up in my pill box every single day, it went from I was taking like a men's multi-day vitamin to, oh, now this is fish oil, this is ubiquinol, this is what, CoQ10, is that one of the ones I take? I don't even know what I take. She literally just puts things in my pill box and I just swallow them without ever asking questions. If you wanted to poison me, it would be the easiest fucking job in the world. And you'd be like, I don't know, he took it himself. He's the one who fills his own pill box. You would get away with it in a heartbeat.
I would like to thank you for being cooperative and generally agreeable to all the supplements, because not everyone is.
Well, you already made me stop smoking pot. So at this point, if you're like, take these pills, I'm like, pills, yes, give me pills. Give me anything that I think might fuck me up a little bit and change my system.
Because we were trying naturally, I did want you to make some lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
The one you absolutely refused was the not carrying your phone in your front pocket.
What am I supposed to do? Okay, logistically, I'm a man. I think we have affirmed that. What am I supposed to do with my phone?
Back pocket?
I just never trust anything in my back pocket. Like, that's how things get stolen. That's where pickpockets go. They go to your back pocket. No one wants to go in my front pocket because a pickpocket is usually homophobic and they're afraid that if they touch my penis a little bit, then the phone is tainted and they have a penis phone. So I put things in my front pocket.
You probably really just offended a lot of pickpockets.
You know what? Let them be offended. I am not here to make pickpockets feel good about themselves. Look, I needed a break from weed anyway, because I was still very much figuring out who I was post-cancer, and I was medicating with marijuana pretty much every night just so I could get out of my own head and just kind of relax, not think about what I had been through, take away some of the stress. But at the same time, I was very much trying to figure out who I was going to be after this and what my next project as a comedian was going to be, where I wanted to go with my career. And marijuana doesn't always help with that. Sometimes if I'm really creatively stuck and I smoke with a friend and we can like rally ideas back and forth, that's one thing. But I was just smoking for the sake of smoking, and it wasn't a bad idea for me to take a break at the time. So I was okay with it. Difficult at first, but I started, I was fine with it. After a few weeks, you just stop thinking about it.
I don't want to compare it to like drug or alcohol addiction, but like coffee, I'm either on or off the bandwagon when it comes to caffeine. And yeah, there's a couple days where you're basically like going through withdrawal, but it's not something you can't get through. And then you're on the other side of it and you're like, oh, I'm not as tired and I wake up refreshed.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, it felt kind of powerful to just not need it. And a friend would be like, hey, do you want to hit this? I'd be like, no, I'm good. In fact, that happened to me a couple nights ago because I'm off weed right now, where we were all celebrating something and and somebody was like, dude, hit this. And I was like, no, I'm good. They were like, really? And I was like, yeah, I'm all right now. And that's it. That's all the conversation needs to be. You don't need to explain yourself. People go, oh, are you sober? Be like, Right now I am. Who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
Like it's more about you worry about what other people are going to think, but nobody gives a fuck whether you're high or not. Nobody cares. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm too clear-headed to have a conversation right now.
So I go down a new social media spiral rabbit hole. Fertility groups and the TTC groups on TikTok, on Facebook, Reddit even.
I wouldn't trust a single fucking thing I read it on Reddit.
Those communities are different than the communities you're in.
I'm sure they're not just busting out conspiracy theories nonstop.
This is the summer of 2023. June was IUI number 1. July was IUI number 2. My focus shifts to still 100% trying to get pregnant, but trying to do it on our own. And I was not willing to do a lot of other things.
This is when you stopped living your life completely. There were no concerts. There were no dinners with friends. There was no anything for you. And I was living my life because my life involves going out all the time. I'm out most nights at a comedy club doing a show. Something is happening in my life that forces me to go out. And you basically were just like, no, I'm staying in. I'm not doing anything.
I will say part of it was like I was on a strict diet that I wanted to maintain. I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to stay out too late because all of those things are known to disrupt your hormones and thus your fertility. So it wasn't just like, no, I don't want to do anything. It was more like, I don't really want to go to a bar sober.
But we never go to bars anyway. That's not something that you and I ever do.
I don't want to go to a rave at a warehouse in downtown LA that starts at midnight.
That is something that we do. Yeah. This is when you started going like, does it start at 4 p.m.? And I was like, Lauren, you know it doesn't start at 4 p.m. And you're like, well, where's the rave that begins at lunchtime?
Seriously, we are getting old. Our entire generation is getting older and we need more daytime raves.
Daytime raves are a great idea. I'm all for that.
One thing I did do, though, was this was September. You had shows in Phoenix, and I was through all of my apps. It looked like I was going to be ovulating when you were out of town. I was working for myself at that point. I had my agency, and I was like, hey, I'm coming with you.
Yeah, and which you'd never go on the road with me ever. That's your time as much as my time to just be on our own and to decompress. I really felt like this was going to happen because I'd been in Austin the week before, and a couple friends of mine, one who's a dad, now father of 3, was like, oh, you guys are going to get pregnant in Phoenix. I was like, why do you say that? And he goes, because that's when it happens. Like, I've had all of my babies when we were on vacation. We were doing something. So as soon as you step out of your normal cage, then something happens and you're going to get pregnant. And I really went into that belief. And we have friends in Phoenix. So you were like, this is a good excuse to go to the hottest place on earth. It was August. I was in Texas the week before, and then I was in Phoenix. And it was like, what was it, like 1:15? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was crazy. I was just like, yes, let's conceive a baby at the Holiday Inn Express in Glendale, Arizona.
Hell yes, Holiday Inn Express. Hey, good breakfast.
Free breakfast.
Free? Okay, fine. To me, those are equatable.
We are just watching other people get pregnant at this point. There are a couple people I know who all of a sudden I'd seen them have their first child and then announced a second child very quickly afterwards. That's hard when people start lapping you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I felt that a lot in my own like community, like you're not like the comedy community. I was watching all these comedians suddenly go, "Oh, I'm having a baby. I'm having a baby. I'm having a baby." And this is part of the problem with knowing 1,000 people. Your numbers are going to go up of people that you see it happening to, but all it does is really reinstill the fact that you're not pregnant. I have friends that know I'm trying to get pregnant because I've talked about it. I've made jokes about it. And you have to constantly answer that question like, oh, how's it going? How's fertility going? Like, do I have a baby? Have I announced anything? Probably not great.
The other thing that's going on in our life at this point is our pug Kimchi starts to get sick. It was October or late September, early October when she started peeing in the house a lot.
More than me.
More than you.
She probably didn't go in the sink either.
Yeah. And then she also, do you remember that sort of, it was kind of like the first sign that something was wrong when we had to take her to the emergency vet. I was scheduled to go to Mexico the next day. I was going to Sayulita for my friend's 40th birthday. After a whole summer of basically doing nothing, a friend had invited me, sort of last minute decided, you know what, I'm going to go. I'm going to go do something because I have not done anything for about 4 months.
I begged you to go. I was like, please go do something. I remember saying to our friend Mike, like when he was like, oh, do you guys want to go to this concert? I was like, is that going to get Lauren pregnant? Because if not, she doesn't want to go. And Sayulita, I was just like, Lauren, you really need to go do something for yourself that takes your mind away from all of these struggles. You need to go relax. And, you know, it was hard because of kimchi, but I talked you into it.
I'm 100% glad I went. I was very worried about kimchi because we had taken her to the vet the day before and I was ready to cancel my trip. We didn't really find out anything at this vet appointment. They were basically like, she seems okay. Like we felt around her stomach. Maybe it's just a UTI, you know, take her to your regular vet.
No surgery or anything like that.
Yeah, she didn't immediately need care. They checked her out and they're like, yeah, make an appointment. You know, we can do a bunch of stuff here. It's probably going to be really expensive. So we took her home.
She's also 13 years old, and you know her first few years were riddled with overbreeding and living in a small cage in that Korean shelter. At 13, you're getting into that range where you're not really sure what's going to happen right now with your dog.
And that's our baby Carlton sleeping in my lap. Wanted to give him a moment to share something. So I'm very glad I went to Sayulita. I was really worried about kimchi the entire time. It was a stressful couple of weeks and I did not ovulate that month. And I think it was the stress of kimchi.
You didn't ovulate. I forgot about that.
And not ovulating was also stressing me out. So once I got back from Mexico, I was only there for a long weekend. I took her to the vet and we basically went through a process of elimination with what was going on with her. Is it at one point, is it kidney failure? Oh, let's do a test. Not kidney failure. Is it Cushing's disease? Let's do a test.
It's not about Cushing's.
It's not Cushing's disease. So they put her on
more Cushing's for the pushings.
Maybe she's incontinent. Maybe that's it. So they gave us some medicine for that and it seemed to help a little bit. I love sleeping with kimchi in our bed so much. It's literally like one of my greatest joys is she just like lays there and I can just snuggle up around her and we go B2B, which is back to back. Like we just press our backs into each other while we sleep. So we got diapers for her and I would put a diaper on her while she slept. I would then put a pee pad under her in case the diaper leaked and I would still just like cuddle her while she was sleeping because I was not willing to give that up.
That's true motherly love though, is you're like, look, she might pee or poop all over me in the middle of the evening, all over our bed, but I don't care. We're still going to be together.
Yeah. That was like, I need my girl with me. Let's talk about when my dad came to visit.
This is a great story.
I mean, there is like death and peril involved.
Right.
Near-death experience.
Because I was only here for a couple days when your dad was here because I had been in Florida doing shows. I was in Orlando and then I was in Tampa. And then I came back and your dad was only here for a couple days and you had called me and said he wants to go jet skiing. I was like, it's almost November. This is not a time to go jet skiing. And he was like, well, he wants to do it if you want to do it. And I was like, okay, I mean, sure, I'll go jet skiing with your dad. I haven't been on a jet ski in a few years. This will be fun. And so we set it all up and we go down to Marina Del Rey. We rent a jet ski and we decide it's very expensive to go jet skiing. And so we get one jet ski. And I was like, oh, okay, so we're going to go B2B now on this jet ski. The same position that Lauren and Kimchi sleep in is now going to be me and your dad, Art, together on a jet ski. Great. You have to pass a little test to get on a jet ski. And the guy was like, you ridden one of these before? And I was like, yes, I have. I figured your dad had as well. He gave us just a really, really quick briefing on how it works. And I was like, great, cool, whatever. We put on our wetsuits because it is cold out. It is windy. It is choppy. We are in the Pacific Ocean. This is not a place that is normal to go jet skiing. I've been in a lot of bays and lakes on jet skis when there is no wake and waves coming at you. The Pacific Ocean on a windy day is a brutal place to operate a jet ski, especially with your father-in-law hugging on you from behind, just shoving himself into you, trying to hold on for dear life. This is a weird situation. I'm trying to get it up to speed. I'm trying to really kind of punch it through these waves. And at one point, a wave, I'll just call it a rogue wave, okay? Probably 30 feet tall, really a foot and a half, but it was just big enough that it comes through and hits the jet ski. I go out of control trying to hold on. Your dad lets go of me because we're both falling off. And I'm like, Art, no. And he goes, eh. He falls off the jet ski. He pulls me with him. So now the jet ski is running away from us on its own. Art and I are in the water just doggy paddling, and I'm like, I gotta go get that jet ski, Art. Let go of me, let go. He's still hanging on by my neck. And so I swim over to the jet ski. Now I climb up it, which is a very difficult task. I cannot fucking get this thing to start. Your dad is drifting away into the sunset. He's going, come on, come on. And I'm like, I'm trying, Art, I'm trying. I look around, there's fucking nobody around. A few moments before, we were pulled over by the Coast Guard to say, hey, you guys got to go further away from shore. You're too close. And now I look around, not a single boat, not a single jet ski, nobody's around. So I'm just like, oh, okay, this is how Art dies. Great. I'm going to have to go back home and explain to Lauren and her family that I have killed their father. And, it was such a stressful situation. It took me, I would guess, about 6 to 8 minutes to get the jet ski started. It was a simple thing of I wasn't exactly sure how to put the key in because, again, they went over it very quickly, a little too quickly, and I didn't really think about that. And finally, I was able, I could not find Art. I'm then like driving around the ocean for like probably a couple minutes, just going, Art, Art. Finally, I found him. He tries to get on the jet ski. He pulls me off again. So again, we are now off the jet ski. Finally, we get back up. I'm able to pull him on shore. We are both just out of breath, panting. I mean, he basically what did he tell you? That he started thinking about?
Oh, he was thinking about his funeral.
Thinking about his funeral. And honestly, I was thinking about my funeral because I was like, Lauren's going to fucking kill me if I come back without her dad because we died on a jet ski. And I remember Art immediately going, we're not going to tell anybody about this, right? And I was like, are you kidding? We're telling everybody about this.
This was the second podcast.
This is the second podcast I've talked about this on. It was absolutely... It was wild. And then we went out to a very nice dinner at an Italian restaurant where we just kept reliving the story. And wow. Yeah. I'm not getting on a jet ski anytime soon with your dad again. That's for sure.
I think that's maybe in a lake.
In a lake. Yes, I would do it in a lake. Also, that was the most intimate we had ever been.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Your father and I. We've had plenty of conversations. We've hung out together. But like just, holding each other on a jet ski, going B2B, me hoping that his incontinence will not take effect all of a sudden. I don't need to do that again anytime soon.
So around this time, I got a job.
Yeah.
I'd been working for myself for years. I started as a copywriter. I had a marketing agency at one point, but as AI became an everyday thing and ChatGPT, I realized I didn't really need the agency anymore because I liked mentoring copywriters, but when AI can do it all and I knew how to work it, and I really jumped on the learning the AI bandwagon very early on. So it just became a little less interesting to me. And the idea of steady paycheck, health insurance, my God, health insurance somebody else pays for.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting company. That's the other thing. It's not a typical corporate job. It's not a typical office job. I made a big lifestyle change and took this job. And part of it was just, okay, this is going to be something for me to do every day and not think about how I'm not pregnant, because when I was working for myself, it was very up and down in terms of how busy I was. So just being able to separate myself from my life a little bit, like my personal life, I would say has been very helpful throughout all of this?
It was clearly an environment where it would force a little bit of discomfort into you because you were going to have to really step up and show that you could work as part of a team, that you could be in this position. And I remember really encouraging you. You're like, do you think I can do this? I was like, I fucking know you can do this. This is perfect for you because you are not someone who's afraid to speak their mind. You're not afraid to rise up when there's a challenge that you're not sure if you can face or not. And so it was exciting for you to go into a position like this where I was like, you're going to really grow here. And that's basically exactly what's happened, you know? But
we're talking about it in the past tense, but I still work there.
yeah, you still work there.
It's a company called Impact Theory. The CEO is Tom Bilyeu, who's rather well known in the media world and personal development space and as an entrepreneur. And it really has changed me a lot as a person. I don't think we'd be doing this podcast if I didn't work there.
Yeah, and it's cool to work for a company that is relatively small, but is really trying to make drastic moves in the media world and is in a position to do so. So I've loved watching you work there. It's been really exciting.
Shortly after I got this job, we had already planned a trip to Baltimore to visit your family because you and your brothers and sisters hadn't all gotten together since your dad died.
Yeah. We had to take that time. It was right before Christmas. Nobody wanted to travel at Christmas time. So we went right before and we were able to all get together. Do you remember we spoke at my high school?
You spoke at your high school. I sat there.
You were there, but yeah, I mean, yeah, spoke to the senior acting class at my high school. We went back to Baltimore and we went to Richmond, where it was where my sister lives with her husband and my niece.
While we were in Baltimore, Kimchi and Carlton stayed with my sister, Holly. I was really concerned about leaving, but Kimchi was at that point had been doing better than when I'd gone to Mexico. Like it was when she was on the medication and she was with my sister who one would understand if she was cleaning up pee 6 times a day. She wouldn't care because I do the same for her dog and, you know, just love them almost as much as we do.
Yeah. And she has her own pug. They're a little family. They're a little funny, hilarious trio when they get together.
Right before Christmas that year, Kimchi started to take a turn. She slowed down a lot. I think her breathing started to be kind of raspy. But she still was just like so happy. It had me questioning what to do, right? Do you rush her to the emergency vet when this girl's just like laying on the ground smiling at you? That's just her personality. So on Christmas Eve, we had a couple of people over. It was my family, my mom, my sisters, and 2 of my very close girlfriends who are both like big animal lovers. And Kimchi was just not doing so well.
She was laying in her bed, really blissed out, and she just seemed very peaceful. Comfortable, happy. Everyone was just doting on her all night, cuddling up against her, you know, petting her, taking pictures of her. But at the same time, she also wasn't really eating.
Yeah, it didn't feel like, oh my God, rush her to the emergency room because I don't know what they would have done. So then on Christmas Day, gave her lots of kisses and cuddles. We ended up going over to my mom's house for Christmas Day for a few hours, but I was worried about her.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we didn't want to take them. When we came back home that night, though, Kimchi was in the exact same spot that we had left her, right next to her water dish. The water level was pretty much exactly the same. We knew she didn't drink very much. And the next morning, we went to take him out. By that time, for about a week, I'd been picking her up to take her out. And as soon as I put her in the grass, she collapsed. I picked her back up, and there was this moment, I was holding her kind of like a little baby. She was leaning back in my arms and she looked up at me and she kind of had this glisten in her eye and she looked so beautifully zen. And she just went, and then her body went limp. You noticed that pee was just coming out of her. And you were like, Alex. And I was like, oh my God, what do we do? And you were like, we need to go to the emergency room right now. We got in the car and we immediately just like we rush to the emergency room, which is a couple miles away. We go there. You drop me off with Kimchi because we had nothing on us.
Right. We had just taken the dogs out for a walk. So I was with Carlton, who did not need to be at the, emergency dog hospital with us. So I just dropped you off. I was definitely in the most like heightened state. So you deal with kimchi. I'm going to take Carlton home, get a wallet so we can pay for whatever's going to happen. And I'll be back.
Yeah, and now we kind of, on the car ride there, I was in the backseat holding her, you were driving, and you kept saying, like, it's okay, Kimchi, it's okay if you need to go, it's okay. And I told you, I was like, I'm pretty sure she's gone, Lauren. And, you know, when you left me at the hospital, the veterinarian came in, and I'm just going to say it, not everyone in LA needs to be hot. They just are. And the veterinarian that came in looked like Sofia Vergara's sister. She was so gorgeous. And I was like, I don't need you to be hot right now. She told me her heart stopped beating. And I was like, my heart has also stopped beating. This is a very weird time for me to be attracted to somebody. That was a really, really hard day. And we came home with only one pug in the house. And I just remember sitting on the couch numb, and I looked at you and I was like, this feels familiar. When was the last time? Why does this feel familiar? Why do I know this feeling? And you told me.
It's like when we had the miscarriage.
It's just like when we had the miscarriage. There was this empty feeling inside that you couldn't do anything about. All you could do was face it and cope and just accept that this is new reality. And it was just so hard because we really, I don't know, we always thought Kimchi would meet our baby.
Yeah, that was the hardest thing for me to accept is there needed to be this changeover, this, you know, and it wasn't going to happen. I think from the moment I got pregnant, which was over a year before that, I just thought of like our family, right? Us, the two pugs and our baby, and we'd all be a family together. And obviously Kimchi wasn't going to live forever. She probably wasn't going to be with us that much longer, but there just needed to be this moment in time where everyone exists at the same time. And that's our family. And our baby won't remember Kimchi, but be like, well, there was Kimchi when you were little. And
yeah, I mean, I always thought that like our baby would come and then Kimchi would realize it was her time to go, because I feel like that happens a lot in life when you have a very old dog, is that they see, like I've seen it with our friends and things like that. A baby comes in and the dog goes, now I can go comfortably because I know you're going to be okay. You got to focus on this new thing. And then I also kind of started thinking about this Buddhist philosophy where there's 49 days after a being dies that it takes for its soul to come back and find a new form. And I was thinking, like, I don't believe in all this stuff, but wouldn't it be great if our baby had like Kimchi's soul inside of it? I mean, it'd be a sassy little bitch, but woo, it would also be the sweetest, most gorgeous thing ever.
yeah.
And then I was just accepting we don't even have a baby for her to meet. Like it's just compounding another loss, another thing that we have to deal with. We're not pregnant. Going naturally has not been working. Now we lost a dog. What else? Like, where do we go from here?
Yeah. So by January, we hit the benchmark I've had in my mind of how long we're going to try this on our own before we go back to a fertility doctor. We made it through the holidays. All the things that I've worried about are compounding in my head. Like, is Alex's sperm actually good, or is it fried from chemo? You know, we only did a semen analysis. There's deeper tests you can do to see if it's okay. So we didn't know. My test from my HSG to see if my tubes were blocked, that was inconclusive. So if my tubes are blocked, then no wonder we can't get pregnant. I'm thinking, are we going to do another IUI? Are we going to move on to IVF? There's just a lot of things. And it was also a sign that maybe we actually needed this fertility doctor.
Yeah, and that's when we had to admit to ourselves that it's not working.
Oh, after 6 months of trying everything, the supplements, the ovulation tests, lifestyle changes, the diets, the pineapple course.
So many pineapple cores.
There I was looking at my phone, getting ready to make the call I did not want to make.
Because calling meant that we were finally admitting that doing it on our own wasn't working.
That we might actually be infertile.
Ay.
So there's only one thing left to do.
Code Pink, steal someone else's baby?
I was going to say IVF.
Can we just steal someone else's baby?
Next time on Hopefully Kidding, the call that would change everything.